Anyway, welcome. I hope you enjoyed this, let's say, the first morning, the lunch, and talking to your peers from the industry. Welcome, please take a seat. And actually now after lunch we're going to talk about collaborative frontiers in messaging platforms and tools. Let's talk about the business, right? What's going on in the messaging business? What do we see? What's happening? What are the threats, the challenges, the opportunities we see? And for this, I cannot do it by myself. I would not, because you would not be in the room anyway, with all iBasis people sitting here looking at their boss. But anyway, I'll give a quick word to Mariano. You start, please. Let them introduce themselves, and yep.
Okay, thank you. Mariano, I'm from Argentina, so you gotta excuse my English. I'm in the industry since 24 years now. I started in a telco there. Then I've been working for Bankai Group for 2 years now. Before I was working several years in a conversational platform company, the second biggest one in the industry. So I know something about what we are going to talk about. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mariano. And then Mike.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes, bom tarde, my Brazilian friends. My name is Mike Singh. It's been, I think, years. Carrier community has been trying to get me to speak. I finally made it to one of their conferences, so I'm extremely thankful to them for not forgetting of my existence. I'm originally from Guyana in South America. I was born there, raised there. I got out of there because it was all jungle. There wasn't much happening. I went off to England and Canada, where I got my higher schooling. But in the last 5 years, my country found 50 billion barrels of oil. And I say, hold on, I can't have...
I got to go back.
Have all these foreigners ship the oil out, and I don't get my piece of the pie. So I was working with the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Funds. I knew how the oil business worked. And the first thing I did was give the president of Guyana a copy of the Abu Dhabi local content law. So I knew what we're not going to get a lot of money because Exxon out-negotiated us, but I brought a full stop to that with the new law that ensured that we are going to get what we needed. So if you want to enter Guyana, you got to have a local partner. We must own 51% or else you go home. But we're not greedy people. We are very hardworking. We believe in the rule of law. We take pride in having been a Dutch colony for more than 250 years. And then finally we became British. But we owe the fact that Guyana is below, the coast is below the level of the sea. And we are very thankful to the Netherlands for helping us up to this date. I'm from Guyana, and I've worked in every corner of the world, from Miami to Kabul, Afghanistan. In case you ever want to ask me how I survived there, you can help me proofread my book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, and for those who, I don't think you have to introduce yourself, but please go along and please take it away, because I'm very honored and thankful that that you're here, and with iBasis for the session. So thank you so much, and Edwin. Again, honor having you here, and we're more than happy to listen to you. And they have to listen over there, right?
Yeah. So thank you, Mike. It was a very powerful introduction, and I still remember Dutch law is still applicable in Guyana. So we superseding the Portuguese and the Brits, and that means that be direct, as we are in the Dutch environment. Thank you for joining this session. My name is Edwin van Eerland. I'm currently the COO, so I'm not longer responsible for sales and business development and let's say top line revenue. I'm still responsible for margin and running the factory because that is how the business is supported going forward. Short introduction. We changed our structure of the company. Let's say we had 2 BUs. Alexander Pebereau, the founder, is now taking position in the supervisory board as a chairman, and we changed the governance structure in such a way that we made it simpler and easier to manage the company going forward. And I run now, let's say, the factory as COO, and I'm going to throw some curveballs today at you about, let's say, what's going on in the world. And a lot is going on in the world. For those who were there last year, I made some challenging statements. And unfortunately, many of those challenging statements became reality. But I'm not going to challenge you guys now. I'm going simply to present what we are doing. Let's say iBasis, for those who doesn't know that, 7 years ago, or no, let's go back in time, 30 years ago, started in the basements in Boston area. Over Gnesi and Gordon Vandenberg started with the first IP, voice over IP, let's say switching technology. Let's say we merged in 2006 with KPN Global Carrier Services. We added, let's say, the traditional trading and the bilateral business together, which was a nice, interesting time. I lived for 8 years in Boston. I left the company. I joined, let's say, the maritime industry, so I know everything of dredging, let's say submarines, super yachts, and all the kinds of other things. So the boat show is for me also, let's say, in a nice area, and good memories from the past. But I rejoined iBasis in 2017 for a reason. Why? KPN was divesting iBasis at that time, and we bought in 2 weeks' time 4 companies. Let's say the iBasis business, we did the SFR, ICS business, Altice Dominican Republic ICS business, and the MEO ICS business, all parts of the Altice group. We combined that together. A few years later, we bought the NOS business. We did the acquisition on IoT with Symphony, and 2 years ago, we finished the acquisition with Democo Messaging, let's say, to strengthen our position in the messaging environment. So 7 years of independent acting, let's say, secured all our outsource agreements with the main parties like KPN, TDC, MEO, SFR, Altice Dominican Republic, and NOS. And just this week, we also announced the, let's say, the new outsourcing agreement with the Telem Group, the Smithcoms in the Caribbean, and Francisco is leading that initiative going forward. Let's say that starts with voice termination, and we will expand that to SMS, but also to mobile. And that's an exciting, let's say, ride so far. It's still preventing me from retirement, because every year they ask me to stay a little bit longer, let's say, to challenge everybody, and that's also what I will do.
We're hoping that you
The landscape on messaging. It's interesting that messaging is still, let's say, there. And let's not forget that we are highly dependent on the hyperscalers. Let's say, if you look at Amazon, if you look at Google, if you look at Meta, they were using the aggregators. The aggregators were sending the traffic to the MNOs, and the MNOs were sending the traffic to the end users. However, the big however is, some parties in the chain find it necessary to increase the rates and make it less attractive for the hyperscalers, let's say, to carry those costs going forward. And that is something what you see in the industry. If you terminate an SMS message now in Indonesia, I think it was for a long time the highest rate ever, 26 cents. Bankai did it better. They even have a destination for 50 cents. Let's say Bankim stated to me that that was to block the traffic. I said, then you should block it and not raise the price. But okay, that's a difference of opinion. But you see that there is a difference of interest. And why? Because every party in this chain has interest to gain revenue. Let's say we see a declining trend on voice. We see VoLTE migrations impacting the MNOs. If there is then, let's say, a feature with messaging, which was an old-fashioned tool, not impacted by WhatsApp, but still, let's say, reliable for two-factor authentication, for one-time password authentication. It is a steady stream of income. And let's face reality, we grew almost to 100 million in 2 years' time, and that is nice to show to your investors. And everybody wants to pick a piece of that revenue stream. The downside, however, is you see the trashing, you see artificial inflated traffic, and you see some behavior in the market which is not, let's say, the award to the hyperscalers. And why not? Because the hyperscalers are paying for those costs. And that is one of the reasons that you see a tremendous decline in the messaging business going forward. Here you see, and I'm going to, let's say, if you can sit over there, then at least you can see it, and I can. Exactly.
That's critical.
Yeah. If you see the A2P traffic volumes, they went up in the period of time from 2017 to 2021, and that was nice, and that was the spend on the projections. But you see how it is going down in the years after, and that has everything to do with the stupid actions we all took in our industry to ruin a profitable business, let's say, with ridiculous termination rates. You see the revised projection. It's even worse. And these figures are coming from Mobile Squared. They have a nice partnership with GTC. And their figures are, let's say, at this moment, the only reliable figures we can use in the industry. But you see that if you look at the total traffic, it's going down 44.8%, which is massive. And if you do not anticipate, if you think that SMS and messaging is still bringing value, then anticipate also on the downside, it will drop anyhow, left or right. The big however is, how can you protect yourself? This is the elements what caused the drop, and I already explained it. The ridiculous increase of termination rates. Hyperscalers are looking at alternative routes. One of the reasons why RCS is being launched more aggressively recently, also by Apple, by the iOS 18. Also for another reason, the Digital Marketing Act, they had to comply with that, and they are the first US carrier doing, or US party doing that as such. But you see also the downside. Fraud, trashing, artificial inflated traffic, ridiculous commitments, ridiculous prepayments at this moment. So why should I, as a CFO or CEO, refuse a blank check of 1 million prepayment and a volume commitment guaranteed by the aggregator, let's say, to send you the traffic? Is that traffic genuine or artificial? That's the big question. But that is what we caused ourselves as an industry. And we had the same problem with voice, with generated traffic in the past. We tried to compete with that, or we tried to tackle that. That is also something we need to take into account for messaging. However, RCS, there is an opening. And if you look at the market going forward, RCS is not new. It was already there 6 years. But it was not interoperable with the other side of the world. And the other side of the world was Apple. And if you see the marketing spend, if you use a rich messaging message, that is significant. If you can reach that enterprise business and use what Google, Meta, and other parties are doing, you can, let's say, create a significant new revenue stream. If you look at the impact and the role of the aggregators, RCS Business Messaging, a future-rich app. I don't know if everybody downloaded already the newest feature on the iOS, let's say, but you can see now that in the messaging sub, RCS is now enabled. And let's say, but if you look at the market potential, it is significant. It is trusted branding, rich media, Google Wallet integration with QR codes, verification, all kinds of standard features are there which we can use, which the Android environment is already using as such. OTP, one-time password, promotional actions, transactional items, all integrated already in RCS. If you look at the maps, the video, the wallets, the quick buy, embedded cards, let's say it is different than a WhatsApp. It is different than a standard SMS. It is indeed enriched. And that is indeed what we should be using now going forward as the standard, perhaps for 2, 3, 4 years, we don't know, but it was already there 5 years. And the Android users would say, okay, are you telling me something new? Because we do it already. However, the world is not ready. If you look at North America, Canada is 100% RCS enabled. And America as well. So you have 200 countries are fully RCS enabled. The problem is, can you also terminate it at this moment? And for the RCS business messaging, which is the closest to the end user, only 19 countries at this moment are fully RCS RBM enabled. So there's still a market to explore. And these are the countries at this moment covered. You see Canada, fully RCS business messaging enabled. You see the situation in Mexico, Brazil. You see some countries in Europe, India, Singapore, Nigeria, and South Africa. And this is the increase which we will be facing. So there is a market. How do you tackle that market? How do you reach, let's say, the end user? Let's say for Android and iOS penetration of smartphones, it's already 98.6% now. 85% of those users are in the US and in Canada. So there's a huge market, let's say, to attack. Of course, Europe is behind, because the iOS RCS market in Europe is very limited at this moment. Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Spain, UK, and USA are ready, but it will grow. And the growth is there. I will come back to that later. Why did the hyperscalers and the subscriber lose faith in standard messaging? These are the components. And the important one is the artificial inflation of traffic. I'll give you a recent example. For many of you, we know that we have a unique monetization project in South America. And after 2 years, it was, let's say, open for an RFP again. We tried to renew it. We could 3 times expand it. And then what you see, another party got it. They lowered the rates. They attracted traffic. And they do that while there is no traffic. But they do that most likely by artificial inflated traffic. And then later on, they increase the rates again. These are all mechanisms in place. Parties are doing it. Do they do it on purpose? Yeah, there is no, let's say, punishment for them. If you look at the MEF, if you look at the GSMA, if you look at the recent sponsorships, a lot of doubts, and the recent articles on social media, you can debate if that is the right way going forward. The hyperscalers, who made us big with SMS A2P, are now suffering. And they said, we are not going to pay for it, and we turn in a different direction. And that is what, let's say, made our industry a little bit toxic and sensitive for the impact what the hyperscalers are doing. And I'm not talking about Google, I'm talking about Meta, I'm talking about Amazon. They are sick and tired of paying these ridiculous rates, and they're looking for alternatives. And that will reduce, let's say, the traffic for more than 50% in certain markets already in the second half of last year. And in this year, we see a continuation of that trend going forward. And they stopped totally the traffic to certain markets because they say, we can do it better, we use that. Also, coming from Mobile Squared, so nothing new, their latest report show all the ingredients, what's going on in the messaging environment. And this is the impact, what it cost. 1.16 billion already, top line revenue gone in 2023, and it will not return. What's our role as iBasis in this game? And we are not a holy grail. We are not, let's say, the wise guy in the industry. We're simply trying to identify what we are as a market leader. We have a proven track record in monetization projects in Africa, Europe, Latam, and North America. And we don't do that with crazy commitments. I refuse it with ridiculous prepayments. And I try to convince my colleague CEOs and CFOs, why the hell should you accept a blank check of 1 million as a prepayment or a 2-year upfront payment with a ridiculous commitment? Well, you know that that's not realistic. So healthy commercial model and monetization projects. Now, a long-term sustainability of the SMS channel, to give you an example, of course you need to change your price if the FX is moving in the wrong direction, because you cannot sacrifice from the cost over there. And that is, okay, a valid reason to change the pricing. We did that in one situation where the FX was due, and we said, okay, let's change the price. We are part of the GLF, the Code of Conduct Against Fraud compliant. I think the GLF is working on, let's say, a list of providers who are compliant. We are not allowed to make a black book, but we'll make a white book. So, and we try to position ourselves as a front runner for the RCS RBM enabler. Are we then also an enterprise attacker? Yes, we are. Let's say in the European market, we have accessibility to the DACH countries, Deutschland, Austria, and Convertia Helvetica, but also the global enterprise market is for us an attack market at this moment where we can launch RCS and RBM at the same time. The products we launch, we have a global reach and connectivity, we do the A2P SMS monetization projects, network penetration test, and RCS business messaging is the newest pillar in our mobile portfolio. We have a team of roughly 40 people in Austria, in Serbia, and across the world in Portugal. And the regions are using, let's say, their knowledge with the customers to open the doors. And then we fly in the subject matter experts, let's say, to grow the business. And we deliver end-to-end managed services going forward, successfully at this moment. If you look at how Google, how the brands and the users are using it, let's say the presentation will be distributed later on, so you can read it yourself. It is a way to achieve and to reach the customers going forward. And now, a competition will be happy to see this, how we do it. How do we reach the market? Not by ourselves. Of course, we use Google Jibe to reach the majority of the destinations. But at the same time, we have more than 10 MNO networks direct on our network, which we can send RCS and RBM traffic directly. And that is also what we do at this moment. We have the fallback on SMS, not, of course, that we can do SMS to RCS. And we are also working on the other way around. And we have the business messaging platform as such. We still have 2 platforms to remain compliant with the 214 license we carry in the US. We have an Alaris platform and we have an Horizon platform. We are considering to get rid of the 214 license because what is the value of that? But that doesn't automatically mean that you can switch to one platform and reduce your cost because the features of one are not the same compared to the features of the others. So we're building reach, we're building enrollment, and we're building campaigns. And that is our strategy for the RCS business messaging, and that's going well. It's a steep learning curve for the organization, I can tell you that, because instead of selling voice minutes, my team also now needs to sell, let's say, RCS campaigns. Yeah, that's a different appetite and that's a different item. I crossed the 10 minutes, sorry.
Yeah, you do
Eric?
this on purpose every time. It's every year again. I know this. Thank you, Edwin. Really interesting and nice to see how you, with an honest approach, iBasis is working along in the industry and making sure that being authentic and just going for the right business is doable, and iBasis is one of the examples in our industry to do so. So thank you for that. Any questions? Francisco, you have to ask him a question, huh? I know you're on.
I wonder if
No, that's too easy. No. That's my job. That's my job, you know. You have to come up to the big boss with a question. You have to. You know, you see? Okay. Okay. Anyway. Edwin, question from my side. You mentioned that 50% of the traffic from the hyperscalers, OTTs, they left actually
The original route.
the original route, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but still, the AWS, they still have to send their messages. What do they do, and what can we learn from it? Because we're losing every day, actually, now, even more.
What can we learn? I think, let's say, the punishment the hyperscalers are facing due to the increased cost is hurting us at this moment, and that's the reality. We created our own problem. I think, can we lower the termination rates? No, a lot of MNOs will not do that because they secure now the business what they have. And let's say they, I know that the business teams will not go to the CEO, I'm going to lower the price, and by the way, my revenue will drop is 50%. Nobody's doing that. And so you are in the catch-22 situation. If you look, however, from a global perspective, then you still see countries. Europe is a 5-cent termination environment, with still countries like Portugal, it's only 1 cent. But you also see in America a very low termination rate going forward. Keep it that way, and simply make it again a transparent business, whereby you try to eliminate, let's say, the artificial inflated traffic, whereby you try to eliminate the trashing, whereby you try to, let's say, provide an honest product, which is simply as wide as possible, because that is what, let's say, our industry is aiming for. We were a quality provider traditionally. We were highly reliable in the industry, so we should do that as well for messaging.
It is possible, right? It's not that difficult.
I think the downside is that we need the GLF to achieve that, to be quite honest, that it is not possible coming from our own behavior or from the management themselves. Let's say every time I lost an RFP due to the fact that another party was putting a high commitment, okay, I had to explain that to my shareholders. Sorry guys, I'm not going to do a prepayment of X million, because that is a cash drain for the company. And I do not know how other people can make a profitable business case when they can afford a cash drain of multi-millions and do a stupid volume commitment which is not realistic because the figures are not there.
No, and we know exactly why. How to fill the gap with the real traffic and the commitment. That's AAT, right? That's the artificial traffic. That's how you solve the problem, the financial problem. But you know what? You're killing the market, and that is we saw it in voice. It's happening in messaging. And guys, next step is we're gonna screw up in IoT and mobile and whatever as well, right? Nice song, actually.
No, that's the little monkey calling her mother.
There you go. But so thank you, Edwin. Thank you so much. And so, Mike, talking about the messaging landscape, what are the things that you see around you, and then maybe we could quickly go to Mariano as well.
Thank you. Well, in Guyana and across the Caribbean, mobile phone calls are super expensive. So you find a lot of people, they will ring you, but by the time you can answer them, it's a missed call and you have to call them back. So if you text them, they're going to text you back, whether it's a local text, it's WhatsApp. Well, I must be the only person in the country other than the embassy staff, U.S. Embassy, that's using Signal, Boteam, Wicker, Telegram. I've got it all. And sometimes I see the same people on WhatsApp. Sunday they show up on Telegram, but rarely on Wicker or Signal. So I think for the mass market, messaging is still used a lot in Guyana, in Suriname, because, as I said, it's more of a prepaid market for mobile telephony. So they are using messages, and they are paying for data, because they can use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the most popular medium there for voice calls, even locally and not just internationally. And you were talking about fraud. I am the chairman for the local chapter of Transparency International Guyana. And we deal with all kinds of fraud. So when I start seeing this fraud, I didn't realize you had this kind of fraud. I mean, this is quite mind-blowing. It's eye-opening, and I thank you.
And it's killing the market.
Yes.
And that is the worst thing which can happen. We're killing ourselves.
Yeah. I think,
Again.
I mean, like, Philippines, I think, is one of the best text markets in the world. They're the best texters. They love texting. But I asked myself, how can you be in business with all of this fraud and then the pressures with the OTT? You know, like, it's difficult.
A good example how you can change that is the, let's say, initial bad reputation of the flash call, which was used as, let's say, a one-time password or a two-factor authentication tool. The MNOs didn't know how to handle flash calls because we use their network, they don't get paid for it. Okay, I can tell you, we found a solution that with the aggregator, we could find a solution how to pay the MNOs and how to make the flash call legitimate. As long as you control it and you make it happen. Is the NOC happy? No, the NOC is not happy because the amount of trouble tickets is increasing to certain destinations whereby the price is high. But okay, that is why we have a NOC. Of course they will say, Edwin, you're stupid because I'm dealing with 10,000 trouble tickets on one particular destinations. I said, okay, but you can shift that because that's the 26 cents termination message. And of course everybody's bypassing that. So try to change the behavior is not an easy task. And I'm advocating as much as possible at every conference. And I do not want to throw people and companies under the bus, but it is the reality. It is toxic and it can harm us and it can harm the reputation. And that is what we should prevent.
Martin, you do business with Smithcoms in St. Martin?
Yes, yes.
Helma is still here? Helma Eckner?
Yes. Now,
She's left. They've done the Arcus Cable company. But when are you going to enter the Guyana and Suriname market? At least you have a common denominator. Former colony.
now the Dutch West Indies are indeed there, and I like Sint Maarten. It's the only country where we are sharing our border with the French population. But to give you an example, if I cross the border in Sint Maarten, and I can do roam like home in the St. Maarten part, and I have to pay a ridiculous rate in the Dutch part. Which I said, okay, that's strange. Why is that happening? Is that only because the cruise ships arrive at the south part and all the US people have to pay a ridiculous rate, but I as a Dutch, let's say, citizen, have to pay that same stupid rate in Sint Maarten, which is part of the Dutch kingdom. So there is still a lot of work to be done, not only in our own environment, but also in the roaming environment going forward, let's say, to use common sense and not to sacrifice the top line. Let's say we sponsored, we owned Suriname for a very long period of time, and they are still dependent on us, and it is, let's say, a fantastic route for traffic, but the next step is indeed there. We can help them going forward with the digitalization. Yeah, tell us, sir. Yeah.
Exactly. Mariano, so what is your view on the messaging market? What do you see around you? What are, let's say, the key drivers that you see, or what's the pain you see as well?
Okay, in my region, I'm from Argentina, you know, in the South America, SMS, we all know the percentage, 98% of the SMS are open, 95% of the 98% are open in the first 3 minutes and so on. But MNOs are starting, I remember when I was in another company with WhatsApp, selling WhatsApp, and now they are like open, the MNOs and everybody's open to RCS as we were with WhatsApp like 6 or 7 years ago. So I think this is maybe the trend, the need that I can see in the region to involve rich media integrations in the platforms nowadays.
Okay. So, Edwin, you tipped already a little bit on it, and you promised us a couple of curveballs, and I heard, I think, 3. I will not repeat them, because we all know them. But if you can, let me rephrase it. What do you foresee will happen in the near future? I mean, I know you don't have to have the glass ball, me neither, although I have 2 actually over there. But I don't have it either. But what's their expect, or what do you would say should we do?
I cannot look in the crystal ball, but if you look where we are now, we are on the crossroad of, let's say, continuation of the decline, or we are able to stop it in a way and convince, let's say, the decision makers, guys, we cannot continue like this. That's easier said than done. Let's say on the GLF and at Capacity Europe, let's say this topic will be one of the most important topics on the agenda. Let's say which parties are the white parties who sign the GLF compliant party. And we did the same with generated traffic a couple of years ago, and we almost eliminated a significant part of that traffic. If we can achieve that as well with messaging, that would be, let's say, a fantastic, let's say, solution. However, people will be thrown under the bus, yes. Let's say we see it already, and it happened also in the past, and we know those parties who were, let's say, instrumental in generated traffic, they do not exist anymore, and they disappeared. Let's say, will the same happening with messaging? Most likely, yes. But as long as, and I only say it once, the MEF and the GSMF are accepting sponsorships from those entities, and let's say then I think that's a bridge too far. That's also the reason why we did not attend the WAS number 20 in Bali. We were there with the roundtable session in a separate session because we cannot comply with parties like that. And that's a principal case for me. And that's also what I advocate internally in the company. Let's say now we are competing in the Claro Ecuador case with the reduced rates. We know that the second pipeline is already open to that other party, and we will see if they are successful in meeting their obligations. But I have, of course, my line open to America Mobile in Mexico, and I have my line open to Google, Meta, and Facebook, and the hyperscalers, because they do not want, let's say, be involved in that kind of business. So it's either to make the choices left or right, or find a hybrid solution, guys, we can solve it mutually together. And again, that's not answering your question, but it is a policy which we all need to comply with going forward.
Do we agree? Audience, wake up. Get away from your phone calls, get away from your messaging, you know. Do we agree on this one? Mike?
I want transparency and good governance.
Okay.
And I don't have problems rolling people under the bus if they do the wrong thing. They say I'm so tough I lock up my own grandmother.
Would you?
Of course, if she broke the law. But
There you go.
I was influenced by Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore.
Uh,
So I'm not the easiest guy to work for, but when you leave my care, nobody can point the finger at you in terms of good values and morals and ethics. Otherwise, as the enlightened gentleman said, if we can't come to a conclusion or agreement in principle to do the right thing, the entire industry, the entire segment of the telecoms business is going to collapse. And we can't afford failure because of a few bad eggs. Throw them out.
There you go. Mariano?
That's the Dutch coming up.
Mariano, for you, any final words? What can we expect? Scoping a bit the future. What should we do?
In the near future.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, I guess we didn't talk about AI, and everybody's talking about AI.
We did the whole morning.
Oh, sorry. So I guess AI automation is gonna be like the game changer for everything. So chatbots, created in
Catching the fraudsters, maybe. That would be a nice thing, right?
So for me,
The chatbots and our AI, that will be completely integrated in the RCS RBM solutions already, and that is where we have a significant advantage of facilitating that going forward. I still remember the days that I was at Mobile World Congress when I saw those 4 first-time messages. I said, okay, is this going to work? And now 5 years later, it's reality. Okay, did it take 5 years, let's say, to start that monetization? Yeah, sometimes it takes longer, let's say, to become successful. We had this morning the discussion about IoT. Okay, we are 6 years already working on IoT. Is it still profitable? No. Is it still managing or bringing the expectations as 5, 6 years ago? No. But there is still a significant market ahead of us. But you need to be patient. You need to be, let's say, stick to your business. We own a network worldwide to terminate communication from A to B. Whether that is a voice call, a message call, a mobile something, a signaling item, it doesn't care. Reliability is the key word, quality is the key word, and then secondly is transparency and honesty in our industry.
Trust. By the end of the day. And with this, I would like to thank you, audience, for being here. Don't leave yet, because in 10 minutes we're going to move on and we're going to talk and listen to this guy, actually as well, again from my basis, talking about the global wholesale in the digital transformation era. But before we go there, I would like to thank you, Edwin. Thank you so much for sharing your presentation, your thoughts, your ideas, and let's see, and hopefully we can, you know, in the coming years say, you know what, we got this rotten apple out of the basket, and we could at least consolidate the business which was left over, because that is, I think, the best we can get and we can do. And one last comment, please.
Yeah. I remember fruitful interactions with KPN when I was at AT&T. You guys were with us in Unisource. Yep. It's always a pleasure working with them. I don't work for T-Mobile, but I can tell you they're the best carrier I've ever had.
It's in the house.
I don't work for them, so, but I use them, and I've been all over the world. I don't pay for roaming for data. I can call back to the US for free on Wi-Fi. I mean, they give me a hell of a deal.
Nothing. There is no such thing as a free lunch. And with that, Mariano, thank you. Mike, thank you. Edwin, thank you. Thank you, and I'll see you later.